remember back in the early 20 teens when my friend had told me about Bitcoin, I was just thinking to myself, I had my full-time job, I had a side business I was trying to get, get off the ground. I was trying to run, I should say. I wasn't making any money at it. Wife and, young child at the time, and I was like, this 2% inflation target isn't fair. How is that even fair at all to me? The debate is down to spam or no spam, whether the core people are like, it is what it is, we can't stop it, so we want to make the network healthy, so we're going to remove these policies that prevent you from relaying transactions around the network that are quote unquote spam. So, I'm pro nuts because Bitcoin is money. I went down the rabbit hole, and it seems like a lot of the core people, the way they talk to everybody and the way they talk, they can't see the forest for the trees. The idea is you want your grandkids to still be able to use Bitcoin, right? You want to still be around and healthy. Then you don't want to have to, when you download in 40, 50 years, you don't want to take 14 weeks to, do the initial download because it's, all the spam that's been passed around for 50, 60, 70 years.
Got Drother on. Drother, right? Is that how you say it?
Sure. Yes, Drother.
It's like brother with a D. I was like, okay,
Yep.
Drother.
Yep.
Dude,
It's got a IT connotation from my background.
yeah, yeah. Dude, that is an epic beard.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, I saw your profile picture. You always like assume they might look like their profile picture, but yep, you've got it. You're like right
That's why
there.
I did it that way.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, good man. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing good. How was your well, here, I'll ask this. So, how did you find Bitcoin? Because you are in IT, and
Hmm.
most IT people that like you hear or talk to, they're like, "Oh yeah, I had some friend in like 2013 who was mining Bitcoin like way back in the day," and it's like, well, that must be nice. I was like graduating college at that time. Like I was worrying about literally like eating because I had like nothing to my name. And I'm like, IT people usually got like an insider view somehow because you guys are like in this other world. So I want to know, like, I mean, you're an IT dude. How did you get into Bitcoin?
Well, so I had somebody tell me about it in 2013. Friend of mine at the time, but I brushed it off. It was I couldn't. I was hung up on the I couldn't touch it, right? And then I also thought the gold backed the dollar still. The normal kickbacks, right? I believed all the rhetoric everybody repeats about it, the negative rhetoric anyway. So, um, then in I guess it was 2016 or 17, a friend of mine started mining Ethereum, a different friend. And I was like, okay, maybe I can get into some miners. And then he convinced me to not because it wasn't profitable at the time. Which he's right. If you don't have super cheap electricity, it's not profitable. So then I kind of fizzled out from there. And then New Year's Eve 2020, right before day before 2021, I was like, all right, we're locked down in COVID. My retirement account is same place it's been in 15 years, hasn't really moved much, still tiny, so I need to do something. So I went down the crypto rabbit hole, unfortunately. But I mean, I guess everybody kind of, does that. And I guess I started watching BitBoy, which there's a lot of drama around him,
Oh
has
no,
always been.
were you buying the shit coins? Did how?
I was,
Yeah, yeah, just like
yeah,
me.
I was buying. And then, well, also, he was sponsored by Crypto Face, so I started out, bought a copy of Market Cipher, Market Diaper, as I call it. So I
Oh,
got into trading and leverage trading, and so I leverage trade on and off for probably 3 years. Went through several different kinds of trading styles, I should say, and then I guess it was Christmas time last year. I had like 3 weeks off of work. I didn't take any vacations last year, so I just took it all, so I didn't lose it. And I went down the money rabbit hole. What is money? So
so you're like, I mean, even though you heard about it like that long ago, I mean, you're still pretty new to the Bitcoin like atmosphere. Like,
yeah. Well,
kind
I
of,
mean, I was fully in, and I was buying Bitcoin in 2021, but
yeah,
it was like 15% of what I was buying, not 100%.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It always takes like a couple years of shit coining and like
Hmm.
getting wrecked. or
Right.
like getting over the hype. Because like you said, like
Right.
BitBoy and stuff. You
Hmm.
There's so many influencers out there. Like,
Hate influencers.
dude, I mean, Elon Musk was a
Hmm.
freaking Doge influencer. Like, the richest man in the world is out there shilling Dogecoin, and people were dumping like their life savings into it at like 60 cents, 70 cents. And I'm like, those people just lost everything. Like, they just got wrecked. And I'm
Yeah, I
like,
remember when I bought Doge in 2021, and I think I bought it at around a penny. And then Elon tweeted, and it went to 5 cents instantly.
I
So,
remember that. I remember that.
eh,
Yeah, that was one of my main ones that I was buying too. It was, I got extremely lucky, but I feel bad because I try not to. I mean, I don't want people to get the notion that like, oh yeah, you can make 5x your money if you just someone tweets about it. Because I'm like, do you know how lucky that was?
oh yeah.
Like, look at how many little shit coins are out there, and 99% of them go to zero.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
you happen to choose one. I didn't even know what it was. I literally just bought it because I believe I saw it somewhere on some post, and I was like, "Oh, I'll buy a little," and it just happened to be the one that got promoted. Like, all the rest of them went to zero. I got so lucky, and
Well, that's kind of my shitcoining methodology was kind of shotgun approach, buy a little bit of a bunch, and you know, one diversify, right?
yeah, yeah.
Diversified into shitcoins.
No, that's like the worst approach. Well, I'm glad you finally like realized that you were like, oh, okay, it's not Ethereum, it's not XRP, it's not
Hmm.
Dogecoin. It takes time, and it's so weird to go through that transformation. It's like a complete mind fuck.
Right.
Like,
Well, I mean, my goal in the end was to convert it all to Bitcoin, right? That was my actual personal goal, but it was to accumulate more in a shorter amount of time. And then, of course, I had a high tide preference, as Saifedean says.
yeah, yeah. Have you read all those books? The
Mhm.
Is that Did that help you orange pill you?
Yeah, Bitcoin Standard, and then the Sailor series podcast by Robert Friedlove, with it was like 10 or 15 episodes of
Robert Breedlove.
Sailor and
Yeah,
Breedlove.
yeah, yeah.
And then kind of towards the end, right before I was like settled in, it was this Canadian guy, Rajat Soni. He's a Canadian CFA. It was kind of the combination of those, just all over that 3 week period in December, really.
Nice. What was like your aha moment? Because I'll tell you, mine was like slow because I found it in 2017, but now I was buying it and then did the shitcoin thing. But like the big aha moment was like 2020 for me. That was like the slap in the face, like, holy shit, this thing's real. This is like full on. I understand why this was created. Did you did you have one
Well,
of those?
circling back to my Bitcoin origin, I just remember back in the early 20 teens when my friend had told me about Bitcoin. I was just thinking to myself, I had my full-time job, I had a side business I was trying to get off the ground. I was trying to run, I should say. I wasn't making any money at it. Wife and young child at the time, and I was like, this 2% inflation target isn't fair. How is that even fair at all to me? And it kind of just stuck with me. And then that's kind of why I got into crypto, shitcoining. And then as in December when I was, doing all my deep dive, my rabbit hole, I was looking at the Bitcoin chart and I was thinking, because I literally spent a month trying to prove how Bitcoin could fail, right? Just for my own sanity, right?
That's an
And I was
interesting
like,
take. Most
yeah,
people don't take that route.
well, yeah. And then so my aha moment, I guess my one real light switch moment was when I was middle of doing that, I guess the end of doing that. I was like, I couldn't find any technical reasons that I could think of why it would fail. So I would, at least not a single one, right? It had to be a lot of them. But I was looking at the price chart and I was like, okay, Black Swan event. And I was like, wait a second, we just had one of those a few years ago. It was called COVID. So I was looking at the price chart and Bitcoin couldn't even break the low from the 2018 bear market or 20, about a little over 1 year prior. It couldn't break that. Didn't even get that low. It was still several $100s above that low. I was like, well, I mean, the only thing really much worse than like COVID would be an on soil war here or nuclear winter.
Right?
From that perspective.
World
So
War III is like the next thing that like you're like, oh, okay, maybe that could make it crash quite a bit. But even then, I'm like, that's still like one of it. It's still gonna run.
It's going to recover,
Yeah.
and it's a great time to buy cheap sets.
Oh, 100%. Like, if that happens, I hope you have cash. like,
Yeah.
like
Well,
take out some loans, not financial advice.
well, I mean, if it got probably war on our own soil, I would bet dollars aren't currency. I would bet it's gold not currency. It's not Bitcoin. I bet it's bullets are currency.
Well, yeah, I stack bullets too.
Yeah, exactly. But I think that will be literal currency if we're in that scenario in our current age.
Yeah, I don't see that happening. Americans have too many guns.
No, it's the the U.S. population is the world's largest, would be the world's largest standing army.
I know, isn't that kind of cool?
Absolutely, absolutely. Is this my water distracting?
No, no, you're fine.
Okay, okay, okay.
No. So, all right. So you're in IT and you were
Hmm.
trading.
Yeah.
Now, I've traded. That's how I learned about Bitcoin is because I was learning how to trade stocks. I was like trying to trade penny stocks. I had a boring job sitting at a computer. And so I was doing courses on how to trade. And then that's when I started seeing this, 2017 bull run happen for
Mhm.
Bitcoin. And I'm like, what the hell is this thing? And so that's when, but I've never used like leverage, never. That scares the shit out of me because all I have to hear is the horror story of like I lost my house, I lost my
But it can happen. The most I lost in a single trade was probably 2,500 bucks, and it
okay,
was
that's
the
not bad.
overall. I probably lost 10 grand. I would say
Okay, I mean 10 grand in the grand scheme,
over 3 years.
that's that's not bad. That's actually a pretty good like rap sheet right there. Because dude, I heard horror stories of like $700,000 like
Oh
leverage
yeah.
to the max. Like I don't know how you can recover from that. So I've never touched leverage.
You don't bet that much.
No, well, I mean nowadays you can do like 1,000 to 1 leverage, and I'm like, oh, so if I take $5,000 to 1,000 to 1, I could do like a 500,000 or 50. I don't know. I don't do public math. We don't do public math.
Well, so the way with leverage is my strategy was you have to find a price where it's going to be asymmetric, where you think it's a breakout's going to happen. And the point of the leverage was I had I would have a price target. Let's say I was looking for X amount of move, however many percent move, right? What I was doing leverage was for is instead of only making, let's say, $100, I want my trade to go one way, and if it goes the other way, I want to get out immediately. So you could, instead of putting, say, $100 on a 10x leverage, I could have $10 on 100x leverage with basically, super tight stop loss, and then just let it run up. And I'm either immediately wrong or I'm right.
And you just did that over and over.
Yeah, well, that's eventually what I did. Well, I started out when I was doing market cipher. I was doing low, like 2 to 5x leverage and no stop loss, and I got liquidated on the March 2021 dump.
Oh, nice.
So that's my only liquidation. The rest were all stop losses. A stop loss you have to account for. So
Yeah. But then, did you start using leverage on Bitcoin?
my very first trade ever was leveraged Bitcoin.
And then did you end up like losing? Because okay, yes, you can get up a lot
Mm-hmm.
pretty quickly, but it only takes one big loss to wipe all that out. So how did you approach that? What you were doing back then with your leverage versus what you do now?
Back
Compare like the
then,
mind process of what you were thinking and where you're at now.
so when you make a trade, you have to take into account what you think your chances of winning. And towards the end, it was, when I say the end, it was later 2021 and beyond. It was, um, I would look for a 10 to 15% win rate at whatever leverage. The leverage wasn't the input of calculate. The leverage was the output. It was here's my stack. Let's say you have $100, right? I'm going to make a trade, and I want how much margin do you want in it? If you only want, you can make the same trade 5 different ways with 5 different leverages. You can make, say you have the $100, right? You're willing to lose $10 on this trade, so you want to risk 10% of your stack. Now, if you want to have 100x leverage, you only put in $20 of margin in. So the other half is because you only have so much margin. Or you could put in all $100 and only have a 10x leverage, right? So it's Just how much you're willing to. It's just how really it's just how much margin are you willing to have on that exchange, which is and then of course how much negative you're willing to take on your trade before you hit a stop loss.
Okay. But then, so when did you stop? When did you realize that using leverage was not the best strategy for you?
Well, I had stopped leverage. Well, when I started leverage trading, I had stopped buying shitcoins, and then I was just leverage trading, the whole way down and through the bear market some. But I was doing longer trades for, longer periods of time, lower leverage, right? Just see if I, try to get a trade, in the bear market, and then I started, I guess, early 2023, I started hodling shitcoins again and Bitcoin, right? At that point, I had started moving some of my 401k into a Bitcoin IRA, at least what I could. I bought, I was buying some shit coins too, but I bought quite a bit of Bitcoin in that. And then I guess my last leverage trade was probably last fall on ETH. Before, yeah, I was in a long when ETH was over 4 grand again last year. Was my last leverage trade,
Okay.
and it was not like I'm still leverage trading. It was okay. I've got like $200 left in this account. Looks like we're starting a bull market. I'm just gonna throw it in on this one trade. It's gonna make it or it's not. If it's not, I'm done. And that was my last one.
Okay. So where are you today now? I mean, how far down the Bitcoin rabbit hole have you gone?
I
I mean,
probably since
it's never
Christmas.
ending. I'll say it's
No, oh yeah, oh yeah. I have literally put 500 to 1,000 hours in since December 1st.
wow.
Podcasts, YouTube videos, books, all of that.
Dang. So then do you still talk with like your IT people? Do you orange pill them? Are they all orange pilled now?
One of them completely convinced. He just hasn't opened his account yet. One of them is convinced, but he bought XRP because of his daughter. I'm like, no. Um, got one guy I work with in India that I've orange pilled, and he'd heard of it, and he started listening to the podcasts and kind of. I mean, I helped, but kind of orange pilled himself. It's pretty much it at work.
Okay. Now, so this is for my own education because I
Mhm.
know that there's a lot of not as many as like previous cycles, like your 2017 and 2020 cycles were like really big with retail, but I feel like mainly like retail's jumping into like ETFs because that's just
And Bitcoin treasury companies.
yeah, they're just like I don't that's what they're doing. I don't know if it's the big number. I don't know if it's just easier to do with like their retirement account. I don't know why people haven't come to actual Bitcoin this cycle really. Um, but I wanted to ask you because you're IT and I'm like the least technical guy. Let's say you have like a newcomer and you were like, "Hey man, I've heard about this whole, there's air gaps, there's private keys." How would you explain just something in simple terms as to how to put like your Bitcoin onto, your own wallet for your own security?
To a technical person or a non-technical person?
A non-technical person,
Okay.
just yeah, if you can.
I, I would say non-technical person. I would say you know, your Bitcoin lives across all of the internet, and your private key is like the key to your house. You want only to be yours only, and your wallet address is like your mailbox. You want somebody to send it, you give them your mailbox address. That's kind of what I describe to non-technical people.
I kind of like that because then it's like your public key is like
Hmm.
your mailbox. You can
Yep.
give that out, but you never give out like your actual key to your front
Yeah,
door.
you don't give anybody a copy of your house key.
Yeah. No, I like that. I like that. That's pretty cool. Um, all right. You had a discussion, was it last night on Spaces?
Yeah, yeah,
You had a discussion about knots versus core and
right.
some other things. I tried to jump on the space and I jumped on for a very small, short period of time. And then I had something pop up, so I had to go off. Can you, what happened in that call? And like, can you describe a little bit about knots versus core?
So what happened was it was two people from the core side and two people from three people really from the not side, um, which mostly was Sat Scholar doing most of the speaking. I didn't say much because um, the core people were my cogs, but it's really really the debate is down to spam or no spam, whether the core people are like, it is what it is, we can't stop it, so we want to make the network healthy, so we're going to remove these policies that prevent you from relaying transactions around the network that are quote unquote spam. One issue is how do you define spam? And it's really difficult because everybody has a slightly different definition. And so you can't stop all of it, right? Now do you want to leave your car door unlocked so that people don't break your window, or do you want to actually like have a safe neighborhood? That's kind of the way I describe that, right? Um, which there is one of those windows. It's called op return is the unlocked door, right? So you don't have to replace the glass all the time. And this isn't the first time this specific debate around came around. The first time was back in 2014. I wasn't there, but I read about it, obviously. Um, so in the Knots people are anti-spam. Bitcoin is money. We're not removing these filters because they work a good amount of the time, right? One example of them that people they don't like to talk about is what's called a dust filter. Um, Basically, under 500, you can't right now feasibly submit a transaction that's under 546 sets because it's too small. Um, they won't get relayed around the network. Yes, you can submit it to a miner if you know what you're doing, blah blah blah. But there's realistically very 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 few transactions that are dust. So I'm pro knots because Bitcoin is money. I went down the rabbit hole, and it seems like a lot of the core people, the way they talk to everybody and the way they talk, they can't see the forest for the trees, right? To me, the technical differences are a wash. I see the pros of getting rid of the filter. I see the cons of getting rid of the filter. To me, it's a wash, right? So the knots people say the filter has been in place for a decade. Why pull it out now? It's worked fine for a decade. The network hasn't crashed because of it in a decade. Network's health is fine. So that's my personal opinion. Now, if I'm talking to a new person, I would rather see you run a core node than not a node. Now, if I have some influence, I'll say I would prefer run knots because if you think Bitcoin is money, run knots. But I would 100%. It's a nuance discussion, really. So the idea is you want your grandkids to still be able to use Bitcoin, right? You want to still be around and healthy then. You don't want to have to, when you download in 40, 50 years, you don't want to take 14 weeks to do the initial download because it's all the spam that's been passed around for 50, 60, 70 years.
Yeah. No. Okay. So beginner, you would say run core though.
No, I was saying I would rather see a beginner run core than not run a node at all. I would rather see somebody run core than not run any node. I'm not. If I have, if they think Bitcoin is money, I would suggest, okay, run not.
Okay. So then what's the biggest downfall for knots and what's the biggest downfall for core? If
So,
let's say the whole network goes to knots, what's the big thing that can like really, affect the network?
so really the only differences are transaction propagation, where when you submit your transaction, it has to go to all 90,000 nodes across the Bitcoin network for all those 90,000 nodes. If you do spam, well, quote unquote spam, either may not go at all across the network or it may take longer. The idea is not at all. If you think Bitcoin is money, you don't want spam going across the network, right? So that's the pro core people say, okay, block propagation takes longer. You can't stop it, so you might as well not have it. Is their kind of viewpoint.
Okay.
Because there are transactions that are blocked on 99% of nodes that still make it in every once in a while. And not people like, yeah, we never said it's 100% effective. We just want to make it difficult. Not, you can't make it impossible,
Okay.
basically.
So then what's the biggest downside of core and what does knots fix for that?
One downside of core was before Knots took off and gained a lot of popularity, 98% of all nodes in the world were core. And there's about 30 to 50 devs working on it. Yes, across the globe, but would it be easier to take over the Bitcoin? If you're a big VC or a nation state, would it be easier to bribe 30 to 50 individuals or three or 400 individuals if, let's say there's four or five implementations and there's 30 to 50 devs each? Which one is easier to, you know, convince to try to take over a network?
Yeah, I mean the least amount.
Right, exactly. Up until March, 98% of all the nodes were core.
So that
Now
was
17% of the network is knots.
so that was actually a pretty big risk. I didn't realize that that was like even a possibility really that that many people could be influenced. If it was only 30 to 50 people, that would not take much money
Right.
for a Bitcoin developer to turn a blind eye to their, their own beliefs and be like, I just got offered $50 million.
Oh, it wouldn't take that much.
Okay, yeah,
Oh, yeah. Well, like just today, do you know who Peter Todd is?
no.
He's an OG dev that started, I think, in 2010, 2011-ish. He doesn't contribute anymore to the code itself, but um, he got paid 5K by somebody, and he posted a shitcoin ad.
And he was a Bitcoin dude from way back,
Yeah, he still is. Well, I say that, but yeah, he's an OG.
and he just
He
posted shit coins for $5,000.
he posted a shitcoin. That's the first one I've heard of him doing. But yeah, he literally in the same post put something like I was paid 5K and then put the ad. The rest of it was the ad.
Okay, so you're proving a point that it would not take much money to
Right.
convince. Okay, so now that we're whatever 17, 18% not running, does that just make everything way more secure, or how do we move forward?
I would say I want to see 3 to 4 widely adopted different versions of Node software, not just two.
Oh, so you want even more than knots?
Right. Right.
How does that happen? Like, does the developer just come up with a new way and then presents it
Well,
to? How does it work?
yes, Knots is 99.9% Core. It started with a fork of Core. Well, the original copy of Knots went back 2013 or 14, did the same thing, and he called it Knots back then, and it was a fork of Core, and they mined hundreds of thousands of blocks with it, back in the 20 teens. And then the most recent version was probably V26 of Core, but V25 or V26. He did what's called a fork, which means you take a whole copy, but then you own this copy, and started making updates that Core was refusing to do. One of them was the inscriptions bug in 2023 that everybody, oh, you can do NFTs on Bitcoin. That was actually an exploit slash bug that just never got fixed. So, I mean, and when I say fixed, it never got in the mempool policy that would spread that transaction around. Instead of fixing the bug, they updated their documentation. And then Luke, the main guy in Knots, he made in 5 minutes made a bug fix to stop that. Now, it only applies to your Knots node. The more Knots nodes, the less likely it is to get, your transaction to go around the network.
Okay. So then moving forward, if say we get like, maybe like 25% knots, 25% core, 25% two others down the road, do you think that would just be like the ideal situation? Just more.
Yeah, it would prevent unwanted upgrade, one from pushing unwanted upgrades. Like a lot of people want to see Bitcoin ossify, which means not change, right? Not unless there's some catastrophic emergency, right? Like
I don't want
let's
anything to change with Bitcoin.
exactly,
Leave it
exactly,
alone. It works great.
exactly. That's what everybody says.
I'm fine with like the Lightning Network. That's great. That's
Mhm.
not Bitcoin though. That's built on top of it. I
Right.
want, I mean, those kinds of things I think are phenomenal because I can send, $5 worth of Bitcoin for like 2 cents or whatever. That's great. I love that.
More like 0.02 cents.
Like I said, I don't do
It's
public math.
yeah.
All right.
Well, my last Lightning transaction was 8 sats was
Okay.
the fee.
Yeah,
So it's
yeah,
super tiny.
yeah. I sent whatever. It was like whatever point one something Bitcoin once, and it was like literally a couple cents. And I'm like,
Right.
that's phenomenal because first of all, in the real world, sending let's say it was point one, so like $12,000 or yeah, like whatever, $11,000 today. In the real world, first of all, you have to report that because
Hmm.
it's over 10 grand.
Hmm.
Then that's going to take probably 4 to 5 business days, and it's going to cost you probably, I don't even know because I don't send that much money, but it probably costs you a little bit of a fee to send that, especially internationally. And
Right. Oh,
I did that in the
internationally, you're
Philippines.
talking weeks.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, weeks. I was trying to say the fee because the fee internationally is
Right.
way higher than just from my account to someone else's account.
Right.
If you're like paying, I don't know, whatever, like $5,000, $10,000 for something, and you have to send that like a wire transfer, that's only like a $30 fee. But still, if
If
you're
you're only sending if you're sending $1,000, $30 wire fee is 3%.
Yeah, which is insane. And now that's why I love, people developing Bitcoin, developing the network and putting things like Lightning on top of it because it's so cheap. And I can do that anytime I want without permission. And I think that's
Right.
awesome. But to what you were saying, I don't want Bitcoin to change. I
Right.
I don't want there to be any guesses of, hey, 2030 hits, Bitcoin's worth $1 million, and you know what? Let's add 5 more million Bitcoin.
Well, so there's other rules in Bitcoin that you can't break without causing a hard fork. So what I was talking about with not first core is just a relay policy. It's not the hard set rules. The hard set rules, like the 21 million, that's hard coded. If you look at the research, the block size wars, that was a hard fork.
Yeah, yeah. I remember the block size wars. Well, I was not here for them, but I've read about them
Right.
and heard about them. I did have a personal friend though ask me somewhat recently, and he was like, "Is there any physical possible way for Bitcoin to add Bitcoin to the network? What if they is there like if they went to every dev and they were like, here's $1 million, add 10 million Bitcoin, so now there's 31 million possible. Is that ever physically possible?"
There was a bug in, I think it was 2010, and then I think accidentally like a billion Bitcoin was minted. Granted, super early on.
I remember
There's only been two outages,
yeah,
and that was one of them. They rolled that network back and fixed the bug. But no, it would break consensus rules.
yeah, so that's physically impossible now. As far as okay, I just wanted to having
Yeah,
someone ask me that, and I told them, and they were like, "No, my other friend told me this," and I was like, "No, you can't do that. That's
right,
physically impossible." I mean, they tried it with Bcash,
right.
and
Well,
it
they didn't change the supply. They just tried to say change the block size, how many transactions in one block. You saw how much of a issue that was just trying to get that passed, and it obviously failed.
yeah, okay. Well, see, that's good to know.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, I think I'm understanding the knots versus core a little more. What other two things do you think? What other two ones do you think you could add to running two different nodes?
Well, there's already one called libitcoin, which is a ground up rewrite.
I have
And
no
it's
idea
got a
what that means.
faster. It's lib when you're programming usually means library, and
Okay.
then lib so lib Bitcoin.
Okay.
But it's only got a do what?
Do you know what that one means or how it works or anything?
It the really big difference is it does the initial block download a lot faster. But Luke was saying the way they do it doesn't verify as it's downloading. That's why Knots and Core takes so long. Is they actually verify every block as it's downloading, just to
Okay.
make sure it's because the way blockchain works is so when you know what hashing is? Well, when you hash something, yeah. So the hash of the next block is the hash of the previous block and the current transactions creates the new hash, right? So if that doesn't check, the next block will be wrong and the next block right. So it has all the previous blocks have to be the correct hash before you can mathematically do the next block. So
Okay. And then are those that's the only new one that's potential to be added?
yeah, there are some old ones that have been around forever.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody's coming to my front door.
Oh, that's fine.
Knowing the kid. Um, there have been some old ones that have been around a long time, like BTCD, but it's got like 50 users online. Um, and I don't know the nuances between these little ones, right? So I haven't done a deep dive on what they are or the differences are.
Okay. Well, cool. No, I like that. I'm not for some reason knots and core. Every time I read about it, I just don't understand it. So I wanted to ask you because I was like, I need
Yeah,
someone to explain this to me like I'm a child because otherwise I try to read it and it just goes over my head and I'm like
right.
I don't understand. I hear people tell me if I run core I'm an idiot and if I run knots then I'm an idiot and it doesn't matter what I do because if you're on X you're always an idiot. So
Yes, yes, we're all idiots. What I see more is the pro knots people mostly won't make fun of you for running core, but the core people definitely will lash out and make fun of you for running knots. It seems like one side is very angry.
okay. But either way, if you're getting started just running a node, by the way, I do not run a node yet. So
Hey, we all have to go through our own journey.
I know I will though. I will
Yeah,
start running a node eventually. That is one of my goals within the next, I'll give it like 12 months, is to finally start running a node.
yeah. If you have an old 2, 3, 4, 5-year old computer,
We're
worse, you
on
might
it
have to
right
throw to
now.
a do what?
I said we're on it right now.
Okay, when you replace this one, if the hard drive isn't big enough, you might do a bigger hard drive, and that's probably all you need.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Well,
So
I'm gonna call you and I'm gonna be like, yo, I'm finally setting up a node. I'm gonna need like probably 2 to 3 hours of your time to walk me through this. Does it take
I
that
don't think
long?
it's that. Yeah. No. Well, no. It takes probably 5 or 10 minutes to install it. It takes about a day to get fully synced,
Oh, but
but
installing it.
that's just all in the background.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
And you don't
Yeah.
have to run it all the time. If you just want to use it for your own personal transactions to make sure your transaction, when you do a layer one transaction, goes through, you could, on a laptop, you could turn it off, and then when you use it next month, turn it back on, and it'll take an hour or two to catch back up, and you can do your transaction.
Cool. Yeah, people are probably gonna make fun of me in comments about this because you can't ask these questions on X and get a good explanation. So thank you for at
Well,
least explaining.
yeah, and that, well, I would say go to YouTube. There's lots more hand-holding tutorials that don't make fun of you and this and that, right? So there's hundreds of YouTube videos on how to run a node.
Yeah, yeah,
So
I know, but that takes hours and hours, and then you got to find the right video, someone you trust, and then you got to watch an hour-long video, and then you got to implement it yourself. So I
I
don't
would say
have.
it's probably a 15-minute video, to be honest.
Okay, that's way too. No, I'm just kidding. Okay.
And then honestly, about 15 minutes to get it up and installed and started. So
Okay. Well, we'll
it's not bad at
revisit
all.
this
Do it.
when I'm ready. I'll hit you up for that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I will absolutely help.
Okay. Now we were messaging back and forth, and sorry, I'm gonna switch gears on you because
Yeah,
this
yeah.
this is hilarious to me because no one knows who Satoshi is. I personally think no one will ever know the real Satoshi. The closest thing I've ever seen is Hal Finney. Um, Obviously he's passed away, so we'll never
Hmm.
know. I hope we never know, but
I hope we never know as well. It's not crucial, but it was important in its early days for him to disappear completely.
I think it still is very important. Like if it came out and then even in today's world, they're gonna like dig up everything about this person, and it's gonna be like, man, he was a racist, he was a Republican, he was this, he was that. Like something's gonna come out. It's gonna get even more politicized. I can't. I don't want any of that type of discussion happening. I want him to just stay anonymous forever,
Right, I
and
do too.
that's the way it should be. And I think that's like the biggest gift that's ever been given to Bitcoin is him just leaving the project the way he did.
Hmm.
But
Absolutely.
but you were telling me that you have a very wild conspiracy theory, and I was like, no, don't tell me. I want you to save it because I want to hear this story about who you think it is and why.
I think it is John Nash,
Who's
from
John
the
Nash?
movie. He was from the movie A Beautiful Mind. I say from. He was the the person the movie was about. So in the 50s, John Nash was a very early well-known cryptographer, and
In
in
the
the
50s?
60s, in the 50s, yes,
What kind of
cryptographer. Well,
cryptography?
because
What kind of stuff were they doing back in the 50s?
well, you got to think they were doing cryptography in World War II with the German Enigma machines.
Okay, all right. So that's besides the point. So he's pretty smart.
Yep. And then in the 60s, he started computer programming. I mean, he was started technically being a dev in the 1960s. He did know C++, which is what Bitcoin was written in. He had a mental disease, which I think some aspects of Bitcoin, as an example, to start a project like this, potentially worth billions of dollars, and then just leave. I don't think a normal person can do that. Yes. And in 1995, he wrote a paper about asymptotic money, which Bitcoin's supply is asymptotic, always infinitely approaching a specific value, right?
Okay.
And he actually won a Nobel Peace Prize on that said paper about asymptotic money. And he didn't die until I think 2014 or 2015.
So
So
what?
he has
How
passed away as
old,
well.
how old was he when he died?
I don't remember. I think he was in his 80s,
Okay, so he could have been
70s or 80s.
all right. So he would have been writing the code in 2007.
Right. 2007, 2008. Yep.
Is it? Sorry, is that? Do you know off the top of your head when the first talk of Bitcoin was like official talk of Bitcoin? I can't remember off the top of my head when like Satoshi appeared. or whatever.
The white paper was released, I think, October
Well,
of
yeah, the white
2008.
paper was released in that was Halloween, right?
Yeah,
October 2008 Halloween.
right.
But
Yep.
weren't they writing code and everything before that?
There was no talk of the word in public before the white paper. The white paper, well, other than Satoshi's email to that we know that he sent to Adam Back and probably August of that year, I would think.
Okay, so you said John Nash. Did I say
Hmm.
that right? All right, so he could have
Yep.
been writing code in
Hmm.
2007, 2006, 2007,
Hmm.
writing this the whole time, and then developing it,
Yep.
then
Hang on.
disappearing because he's a psycho. So he would have
Yeah.
written this, produced the white paper, and then everything's published from then. That's public
Right.
that we can see, and then disappearing because he's
Hmm.
absolutely psychotic
Hmm.
and decides to leave it and leave a, probably the most amount of money someone could possibly leave,
Hmm.
and then he passes away.
Hmm.
How did you find this guy? What?
I found an article written by somebody a couple of years ago called "19 Reasons John Nash Was Satoshi."
So someone else has already thought of this?
Oh yeah, yeah. It wasn't a new take, but and there's been also some Reddit threads on this. But it's one of the more nuanced takes. Something else is at the time he worked at a university, so he probably had and he, like I said, he knew mathematics, so he probably had the key to the mathematics department, which has high-end computers for doing, all kinds of mathematical equations and all that. And at the time, Bitcoin was CPU mining when it first started, so.
Dang. So I feel like I have to go and watch this movie now.
I
And
had to go and rewatch it afterwards too.
did you?
Yeah,
Yeah, I still
but the
think.
the movie stopped about where his life was in about 2001 or 99, 2000 era in his life.
Okay.
It didn't have anything post that.
Okay. Well, I mean, either way, both the people that we think could potentially be Satoshi are dead. So,
Hmm. Yeah. Hopefully the real answer never comes out, like we both say.
yeah, yeah. No, that would be, I think, one of the worst things that could happen to Bitcoin. At least, like, there,
Price action
besides
wise.
something like massive, like some sort of big black swan event, I think Satoshi being revealed would be like, damn, that sucks. I don't
But
know.
I mean, how could you prove it though? That's the thing.
Well, Craig Wright, didn't he? He was said he was Satoshi, sued.
He sued
Um,
a lot of people.
he sued Peter McCormack, who
Uh-huh.
started What Bitcoin Did podcast, and they were in a battle for years. And he finally had to admit that he was not Satoshi because he sued Peter McCormack, I believe, for like defamation.
Hmm.
And because in the UK, they don't have a constitution, poor guys, and
Or free speech anymore, apparently.
well, that's yeah, exactly. So I mean, he was talking shit online, and he got sued
Hmm.
and almost went completely bankrupt because Craig Wright was like, "I'm coming after you," and so
Yeah.
I'm glad that one got settled because it was like that was ridiculous.
Yeah, the court had ordered him to move one of Satoshi's known wallets, or at least sign a transaction, and he couldn't do it, obviously, since he's not Satoshi.
Yeah, that's awesome. All right, and then so
Another
you
another another fact a lot of people don't know about Satoshi is every one of his wallets is 50 Bitcoin or less. And I say less because, he sent the first transaction was him sending Bitcoin to Hal Finney, right?
yeah.
Um, every other wallet was only the Coinbase transaction. He used a new wallet for every block he mined. So none of his wallets were ever over 50 Bitcoin, except for random people sending him Bitcoins like a thank you.
I thought he had a million Bitcoin on one wallet.
Mm-mm. No,
Really?
it's 20 plus thousand wallets of 50 Bitcoin or less.
I did not know that.
And then not only that, back then it was before BIP 39, which is BIP 39 is your 12 to 24 word phrase. So back when you do that, you generate hundreds and hundreds and thousands of different wallet addresses. Back then you had to manually manage each private and public key individually. So there was 20 plus thousand private keys he would have had to manage to maintain control of all those.
No wonder they haven't moved.
Well, I think they were on purpose. I think he never intended on actually spending those. I think it was all, and this is all part of the plan.
I mean, that's awesome. I love that part. I think that's like one of the coolest things is, when people try to tell you like it's a diss. I had an XRP guy try and tell me that you don't even know who created Bitcoin. And I'm like, and I love it that way. I
Hmm.
think it's like one of the coolest things.
Yeah, counterparty risk. Their counterparty risk is Brad Garlic Breath.
Yeah, they got the CEO.
Hmm.
How
If
many
he gets in
times
a
have
car wreck
you been
tomorrow and
sued?
dies, what happens to XRP?
No, I mean,
XRP's dead.
look what happened to every CEO that's pretty much created some sort of coin. They get questioned by the government. Well, you know what? You can't dial any number for Bitcoin, and I think that's
Nope.
fantastic.
The rest are all dinos, decentralized in name only. I mean, even ETH, you got Vitalik.
Oh yeah, yeah. No, I stay away from all that junk now.
Oh yeah.
It's kind of freeing, you know. You don't have to worry about it
Oh
too much.
yeah. I've been the least stressed about money than I have my entire life,
Yeah, it's
and
nice,
I'm probably the most exposed to something that's not dollars by
right?
far.
So are you living on a Bitcoin standard now?
I am. I am.
Tell me how that works. Tell me without saying something that you don't want to share.
Yeah. Yeah. No.
Tell me
So
how that works.
my entire paycheck goes into Bitcoin. I'm slightly adjusting it this month because my deposits are now going to Cash App instead of Fold. I was using Fold for all of my buys and sells. I found out Cash App is no fees and no spread for automatic direct deposit conversion. So I'm now every paycheck's going to go directly into Bitcoin, and that Bitcoin is going to go Cash App immediately off to its own wallet. And so that entire wallet is, that price that I bought at that one, that I bought that paycheck at, and then I live on a credit card throughout the month. And I might have I need a little bit in there for some random, like little small ACH transactions, right? But at the end of the month, whichever gives me the most favorable tax treatment, I choose that wallet and I move that money over to Fold, and then I'll sell just enough to, pay off my credit card bill and my mortgage that comes out the next day.
Really? So what? Because I've thought about doing something similar. Have you ever thought about what could happen though? What happens if we hit, 60% drawdown and it stays down there for a year?
How long? Well, if it takes a year to get there, I have 12 months of slightly negative returns, but I've got enough cushion that it's fine. It's not a problem.
Okay, so you've built up enough cushion that you have a big enough safety net that you're like,
I'm not worried about that.
okay, because that's one thing. I mean, because people talk
All
about,
right, so let's
yeah, go
talk
ahead.
about what the February dip, right? So February dip, I just started this in January. So January, I was down maybe $100. February hits, and we had that big drop from maybe it was March, whatever the the Liberation Day was what it was, right?
Okay, yeah.
So I think when I paid bills at the end of that month, I think I was about 2 grand down. But the Bitcoin I had stacked away in cold storage, I think my average price for that month was like 82K. I've got a big stack of Bitcoin that my average buy is 82K. And I now have $2,000 in losses from that month on my taxes, so I paid $2,000 less in taxes.
Oh, I see. Okay, that makes sense.
I mean, and that was my last down month. Every other month since then's been up.
So if I
So,
were gonna do something similar, then yeah, I mean, I think my average buy price, last time I like looked was like 25,000 or something.
oh wow.
So
Yeah.
so I think that's
So,
my average Bitcoin purchase, and so I'm pretty lucky with that. But if I started to put my paychecks into Bitcoin, uh, yeah, anything that drops and I happen to sell, you just take that as a loss for end of the
mhm.
year or quarterly taxes, however you file your
Right.
taxes, and then that makes sense. I never really thought about that way because either way, I'm still sitting pretty on my Bitcoin.
Over the long time frame, Bitcoin is always up and to the right. So at some point, you're always going to average and paying less bills at the end of the month and stack a little bit more Bitcoin. That's the reason I'm doing it.
Yeah, that's awesome. Okay. Well, because I've been thinking about trying to do something like that. I mean, I pretty much do. I really, we keep like our own safety net, um, for emergencies, things like that. But other than that, we pretty much run everything else into Bitcoin.
Right. And then once you figure out your tax strategy, my plan is every paycheck that I've, put into Bitcoin has its own average price. At that point, I can choose which Bitcoin I'm selling to pay off the bills at the end of the month. So I get to choose how much taxes I get to pay on that Bitcoin.
Yeah, I mean, if
You
you
know,
buy,
it's I mean, if you have to spend the same amount of Bitcoin, if you have, let's say, 10 addresses that are positive right now and you got to sell, but you got one that's negative, you're selling the same amount of Bitcoin. send over that address that you're upside down on a little bit.
Yeah,
You know, take you're literally the only difference is how many taxes you're paying. The same amount of Bitcoin you're going to sell. You know.
yeah. No, that completely makes sense. I mean, IRS isn't gonna. I don't know. Are they gonna come for people?
It depends. But I'm tracking mine in a spreadsheet. And if you do it right, you're only going to have no emergencies. You're only going to have 12 taxable a month, 12 taxable events for the year, one for every month.
I bet one cool part about living pretty much on a Bitcoin standard is it really puts into perspective how much money you're spending and what you're spending it on. Because at the end of every month, you have to go in and be like, did I need that $100 pair of shoes? Because now I got to
Mm-hmm.
sell $100 worth of Bitcoin to pay for
Mm-hmm.
it. Has that changed your spending habits at all?
Yes, which I started doing because I was doing the deep dive and had planned. I was okay. I'm gonna start doing this in January, and I opened my Fold account. I think January 2nd, um, and just the act of actually doing it uh, makes it even worse. I say worse, makes you even more strict on your budget.
Okay, that's not
So,
causing too much stress on you or the wife
no,
or the kids.
at the time, Operation Day was a little bit stressful. I knew I had plenty of cushion, that wasn't a problem, but it was a little bit stressful. I'm like, man, end of the month is gonna suck. But then afterwards, I thought about it. I was like, you know, that's $2,000 less taxes I'm gonna pay on those shit coins I sold earlier this year.
That's true. But I mean, I guess hindsight, because like you said, Bitcoin over the long period, it goes up into the right. So you do get those dips, you sell, you get your tax loss, which is awesome, or your tax break. And then, the next month, if it's still low, then you're just buying at a lower price anyway. And
Right,
then your purchasing power will go up eventually. You just got to weather, the storm.
right. Really, so on the down markets, you're just lowering your average cost is all you're really doing because you get more sats per dollar.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
No, that's
because you're
awesome.
still stacking Bitcoin at the end of the day, it's just you know, you're getting more sats per dollar. You have to sell more, but if you were say buying $500 of Bitcoin a month anyway, you're getting more. So I mean, you're losing a little bit that year, but the following year you're gonna make out like a bandit.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's cool. That's awesome. Now, all right, I got to ask you, what are you
Yeah.
thinking about price action? Because everything that I've been seeing, I shit post about it all the time.
Oh yeah. You
The
do.
price action has been very interesting this cycle compared to 27, compared to 2020, 2021. This cycle seems a little off.
A
Um,
little.
yeah, I've talked to people like Checkmate. I've read other people's analytics about it. Who's selling. There's big sellers right now. There's big buyers right now. What are your thoughts about the price action right now?
I think the reason we have big corrections is because we have face melting run ups, right? We had a face melting run up in 2017 with a face melting crash. 2017 was less bad, and I think now at this point it's been such a slow grind. I think any correction would be more of a macro correction that's every market, not just Bitcoin. So, will we have a bear market correction? It really just depends on how much more upside we get, right? In the short amount, more upside in a short amount of time, the more downside, we'll have after. If you look at the power law, I'm not 100% believer in it, but the math checks out on it. I've done the math myself on the power law, but we're barely above the baseline on the power law right now.
What do you mean?
So the power law is, um, so you know what a logarithmic chart looks like, where it's just like exponential. So it looks like that, but it's on both price and time. So as time goes, a day gets further. Sorry, 1 year is further along the chart than the previous year because the time's exponential and the price is the same way. When you draw it like that with a 4-year rolling average, Bitcoin's price is basically a straight line because the average smooths out your ups and downs. Um, so if you look at it that way, it's I think 90. Last time I did the math was like 99.72% a straight line. Um, and if you go on that, we're barely above average, maybe even slightly below average where we should be at this point in time,
Okay, so
based on that straight line.
you based off of that, you think we still have got quite a ways to go. You think it runs into
Yeah,
2026?
I think it will, unless outside of macro corrections, as in like a real economic crash like 2008, something like that, which is going to crash every market basically. Um, I think, yeah, I think it might go keep grinding up for, I say forever, but for a long time, right? Before it has any kind of, because it's so slow, there's not any real corrections, right?
I know we've been pretty flat, and it's been, if you're DCAing every week, it's kind of nice. But if you're looking for Twitter engagements, it sucks.
It does,
Because it's been so flat. Uh,
which is why I'm not verified.
yeah.
I'd rather stack those $4 in sats than pay for a Twitter
Hey,
subscription.
I get paid like $60. All right.
Right.
Get paid.
I get that. But how many hours of work does it take of you shit posting to get those $60?
We don't talk about that. We
That's
don't.
the way I look at
No, we don't talk about that.
it. I mean,
Yeah.
I spend my fair share of time, but I'm not out trying to actively shit post. I'm just having fun, right? There's a little difference there mentally, I guess.
Yeah. No, I mainly started because I was just wanting to learn. Um, I mean, I've learned more on Twitter X than any type of economics school that would teach me. I guess podcasts too. I learned a lot through that. So
Yeah. I when I go in, I drive to work. I have to go to the office Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and it's about an hour and a half each way. So I've got a lot of audio book time I've got in this year and podcasts in the car.
that's awesome. Well, sweet man. I don't really have anything else. Is there anything else you wanted to bring up, or any other any topics you had on top of your head that you want to talk about, or no?
No, not really. Just here
No,
to have conversation and help promote your podcast here. So,
no, I appreciate it. I
and of course
appreciate
Bitcoin.
you coming on. Yes, yeah, yeah. No, I appreciate it a lot. You've been a lot of fun to talk to. I was looking forward to this one, and I'm really glad that you look like your avatar picture.
I'm glad I didn't disappoint.
All right, do you
My,
want
my,
to?
my, my eyes aren't glowing, sorry.
Yeah, yeah. The laser eyes seem to fall off.
Laser eyes till fiat dies.
Yeah, yeah. Do you want to tell anyone where to follow you, or do you not care? I don't know.
I don't really care, but I'm Drother on Twitter, dr0ther.
Brother
So,
like brother with a D. Okay.
mhm.
Well, man, I really appreciate it, and I will see you on X.
Sounds good. Sounds good.